Thank you, Fred, and welcome to the Global Energy Forum at the Atlantic Council, virtually this year. I'm honored to have the opportunity to be in conversation with one of the most intriguing figures in the UAE and the global energy markets beyond. His Excellency, Dr. Sultan Al Jaber, holds many titles, more than anyone I know. He's the Minister of Industry and Advanced Technology, the Chairman of Masdar, and the CEO of the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, ADNOC, just to name a few. Recently, Dr. Sultan was also named to be the UAE Special Envoy on Climate Change, a relevant topic for what we're going to be discussing today. Welcome, Your Excellency. It is great to see you, even if just virtually. In fact, I believe the last time we saw each other was at this Global Energy Forum in Abu Dhabi last year. As I just said, you've recently been named Special Envoy on Climate Change, and the UAE just announced its second NDC. What is the UAE's approach to contributing to the global effort to overcome the challenge of climate change?
Hello, Amos. I'm very happy to see you and to speak to you. And let me just say hello to everyone participating at the Atlantic Council Global Energy Forum. I'm very happy to be back and to be joining you all, even though virtually, hoping that next year we'll all be able to meet in person and hopefully here in Abu Dhabi. Allow me also to say welcome to everybody participating in this year's forum from around the world, and in particular our friends in the United States. Now, back to your question, those who know the UAE those who know the UAE well know that we have always made a positive contribution to helping address global challenges. And the challenge of climate change is no different. This is exactly the narrative or the ethos that guided us to launch Masdar about 15 years ago as a clean technology hub that today is the permanent home of the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA. And Masdar today has also become a true global investor in renewable energy globally. In more than 30 countries, Masdar is already physically present through large investments by scaling up renewable energy technologies and investing in scaling up those technologies and helping bring the cost down. We not only talk the talk, we walk the walk. And we have seen firsthand how smart investment and diversifying the energy mix can pay off. When we started Masdar 15 years ago, solar and wind were high cost, nascent energy sources, but today they are very cost competitive. In fact, we just set a new record for low-cost solar energy at the world's largest solar park here in Abu Dhabi and at Al Dhafra region, with a tariff of 1.35 cents per kilowatt hour. We were the first country in the region to sign the Paris Accords and the NDC that we submitted last month. This makes us the first country in the region to commit to an economy-wide emission reduction. Our approach to climate change reflects our leadership's dedication to addressing global challenges. And we do this in close partnership with international community and with all kinds of partners from all over the world. And we believe that partnership, not just between countries, but between industries, including the oil and gas industry, is actually crucial to achieving our collective climate goal, climate objectives and climate change goals.
Dr. Sultan, let me pick up on something that you just talked about. You've been at the forefront, as you said, of promoting renewable energy, not just UAE, but you personally have been at that forefront through your leadership at Masdar. And you and I met when you were at the early years of you chairing Masdar. And in fact, I remember in the spring of 2016, I toured Masdar together with then Vice President Biden, tomorrow about to become President Biden, and we received a tour from you. And later that evening, in a small dinner with His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, we talked about what you just talked about right now. Sheikh Mohammed asked you to brief the Vice President on the role of UAE and the ability to see the importance of climate change and the role that UAE was already then playing through Masdar and advanced technologies. And over the last 4 years, in addition to chairing Masdar, you've also been the CEO of ADNOC. And I was wondering if you can share with us how you see those roles aligning. You just touched on that in your last answer about the role of the oil and gas industry. How do you see those roles aligning, especially now as you come to the global stage as the UAE climate change special envoy?
Amos, I remember that visit by the incoming President Biden so well. It actually feels like if it happened only a few days ago. And I remember in particular how important sustainable development and sustainability in general was to the incoming president. I remember how engaging he was, and I remember also the type of questions he was asking. It is clear how much focus he intends to give to climate change as part of his agenda. Yes, I was very honored to have had the opportunity to share with him how we approach these issues here in the UAE. And I was also very pleased to have the opportunity to give him firsthand practical examples of what we are doing through Masdar and the many other initiatives here in the Emirates. Now, getting back to your question, you asked me about how these roles in a way fit together. And I'm glad, Amos, that you asked me this question, because I know that it crosses many people's minds. It is firstly a great honor that I have been appointed by my leadership to take on the climate envoy role for the second time, after previously serving in this capacity between 2010 and 2015. Since then, as you rightly point out, I have assumed the role of the group chief executive at the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company. And rather than being in conflict, I believe working across the energy mix has given me a deeper understanding of the entire energy system. And based on this, it is clear that the hydrocarbon industry simply has to be at the center of the conversation on climate change. And most importantly, oil and gas has to play a role to be part of the solution. And the fact is, the world will still rely on oil and gas for many decades to come. So this industry, the oil and gas industry, can and must play an important role in the transition to a lower carbon future. Here, the UAE has a dual advantage. A leadership that has always put environmental stewardship and environmental protection first, and a natural advantage because our geology gives us some of the least carbon-intensive oil in the world. And we are building on this position by reducing our carbon intensity by a further 25% over the next 10 years. And we're doing this by enhancing efficiencies and expanding our industrial scale carbon capture and storage facility, which is known to be the first and the largest in our region. In addition, we are exploring the potential of new fuels such as hydrogen, which could be a game changer in the energy transition. We already here in ADNOC produce about 300,000 tons of hydrogen a year as part of our current industrial processes. We are currently exploring the viability of markets in Asia and in Europe. As those markets progress and develop, we will build the business case that could position us, Abu Dhabi and the UAE, as a major player and a major supplier of blue hydrogen worldwide. It is very early days though, but with the right regulatory framework, I believe there is significant potential in hydrogen energy.
Dr. Sultan, you've just talked about some of the efforts by the UAE and in the advanced technology around the renewable energy. And I was wondering, as we come into a new administration here in the United States with President Biden and Vice President-elect Harris, and the focus that you just talked about that you saw from President-elect Biden when he was in Masdar has just increased over the years since that visit. So with this focus, and you'll be working with John Kerry, the former Secretary of State John Kerry, now as the envoy, how do you see the opportunities for collaboration, specifically between the UAE and the United States, on all these areas that you just discussed that you're doing from the UAE? What are the areas of cooperation and collaboration that you see possible in the near future?
As you know, Amos, the UAE and the US have a deep-rooted, very strong, long-standing relationship based on shared values and strategic interests. The relationship between the UAE and the US is multifaceted, covering diplomacy, politics, security, energy, trade, technology, investments in different areas, private equity partnerships and investments, of course, culture and healthcare. In short, we are very aligned in many areas, such as promoting peace, creating opportunity, and enabling progressive prosperity. The Abraham Accord is a very good example. In fact, it's a prime example. With US diplomatic support, we created a bridge for the first time between Israel and the Gulf countries. And this agreement in particular is already creating economic opportunity for the whole region. Our strategic energy alliance with the US is already very strong. And as you know, the US was instrumental in bringing peaceful nuclear energy to the UAE as part of the 123 agreement. And as both our countries emerge from the pandemic, I believe there are great opportunities for collaboration across the energy sector, and I'm sure across a variety of many other sectors. Starting though with energy, Amos, you know, we have many concessions and exploration partnerships with many US companies, including Exxon, Oxy, Baker Hughes, just to name a few. In the near term, there is room for deepening this energy cooperation around unconventional oil and gas, which we are currently progressing and discovering here in Abu Dhabi, and it's very promising and would provide a very special, unique opportunity for American companies to explore such partnership opportunities with us. And there are, of course, very clear opportunities to build on our cooperation and efficiency enhancing technologies, new energies such as hydrogen, carbon capture and storage, and of course, renewable energy sits very high on our agenda. And I am sure there will be many areas of cooperation in the field of renewable energy and the mitigation of climate change. Outside of energy, and as our economy diversifies, I see significant potential for investment in our emerging industrial sectors, manufacturing, biotech, healthcare, agriculture. We've seen recently many US private equity firms discover the UAE as a stable, well-governed, well-established, business-friendly investment destination. And we welcome that. And we look for more opportunities like those. In addition, we would like to see more collaboration on artificial intelligence, advanced technologies. We would like to see us expand our cooperation between the MBZ UAI University, the Mohammed bin Zayed University for Artificial Intelligence. It is the first of its kind. Homegrown, graduate level, research driven, very much focused on artificial intelligence, digitization, and machine learning. That could be a very unique opportunity for true long-term strategic partnership in a very important field like AI. In short, there is no shortage of great opportunities for investors from the US to explore here. And I know that these investment opportunities will offer great returns while also making sure that they provide practical progress on helping address global challenges.
Thank you, and I think that also demonstrates your ability to lead on many of these areas, as both in the energy field, on both the oil and gas, the climate, as well as in the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology. But let me turn to another area potentially of cooperation that will be needed, not just with the US, but on a global stage. If you think about the COP negotiations, the COP26 negotiations upcoming in Glasgow, which are the most consequential since Paris. This summit comes as the world is not only united as never before on climate change and the need to come together to address this crisis, but also the world is coming out, hopefully coming out, or potentially seeing the light at the end of the tunnel of coming out of the global pandemic and COVID-19. In that pandemic, as we recover from it, we also see the haves and the have-nots, the separation between countries as economically as we come through this deepen. Some countries in the developing world have suffered tremendous losses and depleted budgets around the world and don't have that ability that industrial countries may have to invest in climate change, in the battle against climate change, and investing in infrastructure. How should the industrial world balance those needs of economic development and the basic needs to be able to supply their own people with necessary needs in the emerging economies with the need for a global and universal climate change action?
The COVID experience has shown us that when humanity comes together, there is no challenge we can't overcome. And while COVID and climate change are two very different challenges, they have three factors in common. They are both global, they respect no borders, and they require a collective, united response. And just as we have with COVID, the UAE will lead as a responsible global citizen, and it will use its convening power to help advance global progress when it comes to addressing climate change. A great example, aside from Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week itself, is the upcoming Dubai Expo, which will be the first expo hosted in our region. It will be focused on uniting the world around equitable solutions to sustainable development. In fact, the Sustainability Pavilion was only opened yesterday. And hopefully when you come soon to the UAE, you'll be able to visit the expo site. And I know for a fact it's something you should see and experience. And to get back to your specific question about balancing the needs of emerging economies with climate action, I find this to be a very important question. In fact, it is a critical question. I fundamentally believe that we can achieve climate goals while ensuring economic progress if we avoid one-size-fits-all policies. We need to adopt a custom-tailored approach for each region, and we need to always strike a balance. Reducing carbon is something we can all agree is a common goal, but it should not undermine the ability of emerging economies to give their people a better future and to ensure a progressive, stable economic growth. For instance, Africa should not be forced to pay the price for the industrial revolution that helped mature economies to get to the level of development they enjoy today. We need to create the right mechanism in terms of funding, energy mix, and broader economic development that strikes that right balance. So I am very much looking forward to COP26. I know for a fact the UAE will play an important role. I know for a fact that the UAE again will play a proactive and a productive and a progressive role in helping achieve the global objectives in addressing such a global challenge in addressing climate change.
Thank you, Dr. Sultan. I think that from cooperation between our two countries and cooperation of our two countries with the rest of the world, I hope we can achieve some of the goals that are so needed right now to address not only climate change, but to do it, as you just talked about, in a way that enables the whole world to battle climate change in the best way that they can. We've come to the end of our time. I could have continued all day, and I think everybody listening to you could continue all day to listen to how to thread this needle that you are tasked with. But I know that we have a great agenda coming forward in the forum. I thank you for taking the time to be with us today and for the opportunity to be in conversation with you today.
Thank you very much, Amos. And I want to thank everyone at the Atlantic Council for such an instrumental work. And I thank them for the opportunity. And I look forward to seeing you all in person in the very near future. Please stay safe. Thank you.